6:30, Scituate Planning Board, Thursday, July 11th, 2019. Thank you all for being here. I will accept a motion for the agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
We now have at 6:30, which it is right on the dot, a continued public hearing for special permit accessory dwelling at 67 Old Oaken Bucket Road. Ron.
Thank you. Maureen Hurley, representing the applicant, and I hope you have all received a copy of the plan that was prepared by Greg Morris. And Greg's actually here, and his plan is over there. And what you asked for last time was, you had a couple questions. You wanted to know where the proposed new driveway was going to be, where the building was going to be, the actual new structure. You wanted us to talk about where the runoff and the gutters, downspouts were going to go, and also get something from the Board of Health with regard to the three-bedroom issue. And so most of those things have been done. I think the one thing that we need to do for the Board of Health, as I spoke to the health agent this afternoon, and Karen will probably confirm this, that they would like a deed restriction for a three-bedroom to be recorded prior to construction. But other than that, they are fine with it.
Okay. Karen?
Yeah, I spoke with the Board of Health as well. They are fine with the plan. They do want the three-bedroom deed restriction, but there's 2 bedrooms in the primary dwelling and 1 in the accessory dwelling, so that makes 3 bedrooms total, and that's what they have for an existing septic system. So as with your standard conditions, you say subject to Board of Health requirements, and that would be a Board of Health requirement. So that's all the planning board needs to say, and they'll be coordinating with the Board of Health for that deed restriction.
All right, comments from the board?
The only other change that I would like to note is I really don't think those 2 parking spaces in the parking pad as it's shown on your plan are necessary. There's the primary dwelling has garage parking, and there's room for 4 spaces outside. The accessory dwelling has 1 space in the garage, and there's room for 1 outside. So I think that having the 2 parking space, that parking pad in the front yard is unnecessary, and I think it detracts from the accessory dwelling.
It
So
should be green space.
it should be green space. I would recommend that, I've made a draft motion that a plan be provided prior to construction that shows those parking spaces removed, that shows that the requirements for the Water Resource Protection District are met, in that there's a test pit done to show that infiltration devices will be 3 feet above the estimated seasonal high groundwater table, because that's a zoning bylaw. You have to infiltrate the first inch of runoff, and it has to be 3 feet above the groundwater table. And so they'll have to determine, based on the amount of disturbance, if they need a stormwater permit, and there's a limit on disturbance for that, and what has to be done for the Water Resource Protection District.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Morse?
Sure, I think the primary purpose of those parking spaces that we showed there was really just to provide a turnaround. If you park a car in the garage or in front of it, you don't want to back down the driveway, back out onto Old Oaken Bucket Road, especially in that location. So if it could be revised, maybe not as parking spaces, but at least so that there was a turnaround adequate so you could drive forward out of the driveway, that would be great.
I think a turnaround on the other side would be more visually appealing. I did mean to put a turnaround, that they could have a turnaround.
Because you can even turn around on the grass if it's done properly. I mean, it's just aesthetics. I'm sure you can work it out to make it look the best it should look. Okay? Thank you, Mr. Morse. Comments from the board, Ben?
Generally, how are you going to, is there some sort of conversion on the interior of the main house to convert it to a 2-bedroom from 3-bedroom?
That has already been done, is my understanding.
Yeah, before we
Yeah.
bought it.
Oh, okay. All right.
There's a wall removed.
Gotcha. No, that's really all I have.
Steve?
Just talk to me a bit about this 3-foot separation. What happens if they don't find 3 feet?
Well, they have to meet that requirement for, the bottom of the bottom of an infiltration device has to be 3 feet above the estimated seasonal high groundwater. That's a requirement in the water resource protection.
Yeah, so maybe I need to ask the applicant, but what happens if you don't have that kind of separation? How do you address it?
Mr.
Ray
Morse?
can answer that.
Yeah. I've conducted perk tests on abutting properties to this, not necessarily this one, although I will conduct them on this one. I don't think you're gonna have any problems complying with a 3-foot groundwater separation there. You can raise the grade slightly around the garage. Typically, groundwater at this location is about 5 feet below the ground surface. Infiltrators are usually only down a couple inches to a foot.
Okay. I think that was it.
Bill?
All set?
Patty?
What about the existing barn? Has that come down yet? Or is it gonna come down?
Not yet, but it will come down.
Okay.
Okay. Fine. I mean, I'm fine. So, the public, is there anybody from the public that would like to comment on this? Seeing no one from the public, other than the applicants.
7 pages, okay.
Okay.
I move to make the following findings of fact. On May 2, 2019, Eric McMurray and Patrick Donahue applied for a special permit for a detached accessory dwelling on the property at 67 Old Oaken Bucket Road. 2, based on a floor plan submitted by the applicant, the floor area of the proposed accessory dwelling will be approximately 747.25 gross square feet. This is 49% of the total square footage of the primary dwelling, which is 1,512 square feet, according to the application. This meets the size requirements of 530.2F of the zoning bylaw for accessory dwellings, as the bylaw allows 750 square feet or 40% of the total square footage of the primary dwelling, whichever is greater. The accessory dwelling is subordinate to the existing single-family home. 3, the accessory dwelling unit will be a complete separate housekeeping unit, and there will be only one accessory dwelling on the lot. 4, the proposed detached accessory dwelling structure meets all of the required setbacks, building height, and yard requirements for a primary dwelling. 5, the proposed accessory dwelling is located on the west side of the primary dwelling. Access will be via a walkway leading from the proposed new driveway to the front door. 6, the appearance of the accessory dwelling is in keeping with the appearance to the primary dwelling and the surrounding neighborhood. 7, the proposed accessory dwelling site for the property shows a 13-foot wide gravel driveway of approximately 74 feet 6 inches, leading to a one-car garage attached to the accessory dwelling.
Excuse me.
So there is a proposed 9-foot by 18 parking pad for 2 cars shown on the plan, which the applicant has indicated will not be built, as it is not needed to provide for 2 parking spaces for the accessory dwelling, as there is room in the garage and outside of it. This appears adequate to provide 2 parking spaces for the accessory dwelling. The primary dwelling shows an attached 2-car garage with room for 4 vehicles outside. Ample parking spaces appear to be provided. 8, the owner has submitted a signed, notarized statement that she will be occupying 67 Old Oaken Bucket Road as her primary residence. 9, the accessory dwelling will be serviced by an existing 3-bedroom septic system. The primary dwelling has 2 bedrooms, and the detached accessory dwelling will have 1 bedroom. All provisions of the Board of Health and Title V must be met. 10, a new connection to town water will be provided from Old Oaken Bucket Road water main, and it will comply with the town requirements for a water connection. A water hookup fee will be required from the Water Division per their comments of 5/9/19. 11, a French drain will be installed around 3 sides of the accessory dwelling. Stormwater runoff from the roof area of the accessory dwelling will be directed to a subsurface roof infiltration system to comply with the Water Resource Protection District requirements, while stormwater runoff from the driveway and primary dwelling will flow overland as it presently does. 12, the application meets the standards of the Scituate zoning bylaw for an accessory dwelling special permit.
Okay, is there a second with the findings of fact?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do you want to continue?
You go.
All right. I move to approve the special permit for an accessory dwelling at 67 Old Oaken Bucket Road with the following conditions, in addition to the standard conditions for accessory dwellings approved by the planning board after a public hearing on 12/17/15. 1, except for any changes necessary to meet these conditions, any construction shall substantially conform to plan showing accessory dwelling 67 Old Oaken Bucket Road by Morse Engineering Company, Inc., dated 7/3/19, and site plan entitled Plan B, Donna McMurray, 67 Old Oaken Bucket Road, Scituate, Mass., by Residential Plans dated 2/2/19, architectural plans by Residential Plans consisting of 10 sheets, including Plan B, A1 first floor plan, A2 second floor plan, A3 basement plan, B1 front elevation, B2 side elevation, B4 side elevation, and B5 side section. B3 back elevation, B4 side elevation, and B5 side section. A9 details dated 2/2/19, existing house plan, 67 Old Oaken Bucket Road, Scituate, Mass. The number of bedrooms in the accessory dwelling is limited to 1 in the location and size indicated on the floor plan submitted with the application. The number of bedrooms in the primary house is limited to 2. 3, no further expansion of the accessory dwelling floor area is allowed without further review by the planning board. 4, upon occupancy of the accessory dwelling, the applicant shall provide a notarized affidavit that she is living in one of the dwelling units. A yearly certification that the owner occupies one of the dwelling units must be provided March 1st yearly. 5, all requirements of the Board of Health must be met prior to occupancy of the accessory dwelling. 6, the accessory dwelling shall conform to all applicable standards in the building, plumbing, electrical, mechanical, fire, and health codes and bylaws. 7, water connection must meet all requirements of the DPW Water Division for the accessory dwelling. 8, any lighting installed shall be down lighting to not shed light on abutting properties. 9, construction work shall not begin prior to 7 a.m. weekdays and 8 a.m. on Saturdays, and shall cease no later than 7 p.m. or sunset, whichever is earlier. No construction shall take place on Sundays or legal or federal holidays. Construction includes idling of vehicles, delivery of materials to the site, and all other construction activities. 10, the limit of work is to be staked in the field and verified that disturbance is less than 15,000 square feet. If a stormwater permit is needed with verification from the Stormwater Authority, the owner shall apply for one. 11, runoff from the proposed accessory dwelling shall not be increased from the property. 12, runoff from the proposed accessory dwelling rooftop must be designed to recharge the first 1 inch of rainfall with the infiltration devices having a 3-foot minimum separation between the bottom of the structure and maximum groundwater elevation. A plan shall be provided to the town planner for approval prior to construction with a test pit included showing the maximum groundwater elevation. A plan shall be provided to the town planner for approval prior to construction with a test pit showing the maximum groundwater elevation. The same plan shall show the 2 parking spaces removed. 13, erosion and sedimentation control devices shall be installed to prevent any erosion or sedimentation from leaving the site during construction. Silt sock shall be used. 14, no finished slope shall be created that exceeds 25% with the exception of side slopes associated with new road construction. 15, an artificial recharge system for precipitation shall be provided that will not result in the degradation of groundwater quality if the lot is rented to have more than 15% or 2,500 square feet, whichever is greater, of impervious surface. The standard conditions for accessory dwellings approved by the planning board on 12/17/15 shall be conditions of this decision and shall be included for recording at the Registry of Deeds. A, the applicant shall meet all the requirements of the Building Department, Board of Health, Department of Public Works, Fire Department, Water Department, Conservation Commission, and other town agencies. B, the property shall contain a maximum of 2 dwelling units, the primary dwelling and accessory dwelling as proposed. The footprint, number of bedrooms, and/or square footage shall not be increased without prior approval of the planning board. C, the owner of the property shall reside on the property as long as it contains an accessory dwelling unit. D, the planning board may require an on-site inspection for conformance to the approved plans. These conditions prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for the accessory dwelling. E, an accessory dwelling special permit certification of ownership and occupancy signed by any new owner shall be provided to the planning board within 7 days of the closing of the sale of the house. It is recommended that this be signed at the closing. F, at any time at the request of the planning board, the owner shall provide a notarized affidavit indicating that either the primary or accessory unit is owner occupied. G, no on-street parking by occupants of the primary or accessory dwelling shall be permitted at any time. H, construction vehicles, equipment shall not idle, be parked, stored, loaded, or unloaded in the street. I, this special permit shall be void if it is not recorded at the registry of deeds within 90 days of the date of filing with the town clerk. The owner shall provide proof of this recording to the planning board. J, this special permit shall lapse within 2 years from the date of its issuance unless substantial use or construction has commenced prior to that time in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 40A, Section 9. K, the planning board reserves the right to review compliance with this special permit at any time. Special permit shall terminate if the use is not in accordance with this decision and its conditions. Is there a second for discussion?
Second.
Okay, discussion. Anything you want to change, add to?
We need to put this indication about deed restriction in here?
No,
Yeah, it's,
Huh?
no, because it's a Board of Health that, if the deed of restriction is with the Board of Health, all the requirements of the Board of Health must be met. And that's where you're covered in here.
So the Board of Health is going to put deed restrictions in the special permit?
No, they're going to have their own 3-bedroom deed restriction for the septic system.
So it's going to be on the septic system
It's on the
document
septic system.
that gets
because-
registered?
Yes.
Okay.
And what will usually be done is you pick that up from the Board of Health and record that along with the decision at the same time. So they'll be recorded back to back.
Yeah. I'm just trying to make sure that that requirement conveys, right?
I
Because
double,
once it leaves here, it's
I
not in our
double
hands.
checked with the Board of Health, and that's how it's typically done. That's what they said they wanted to have done. That we were covered by having all requirements of the Board of Health must be met.
All right.
Anything else? All right, this, in a second, all those in favor of the special permit, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck
welcome to the bucket.
to the old oaken bucket.
Welcome to the bucket.
Now what's next?
These are the standard conditions, right? So why do we read them?
I don't know.
Call you
Karen,
when it's ready.
if we have these standard conditions, why do we have to read A through?
You don't really, but I was putting them on just so Rebecca could get used to seeing what they were.
And she's
or
not here.
If anybody,
She's in Appalachia, how hot you think that is? Or raining?
Could you fax this to her?
No, I didn't.
Fax.
Pick up that
Anybody know what a
fax.
fax is anymore?
No.
That's how that goes.
All right, we do have a continued public hearing. We've got 10 minutes. So why don't we take this opportunity to approve some minutes?
All right. Minutes for approval. I move to approve the meeting minutes for June 27, 2019.
Is there a second?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Accounting.
I move to approve the requisition of $600 to Merrill Corporation for the peer review of the stormwater at 203 Old Oaken Bucket Road, for $125 to Chester Consulting Services LLC for peer review of 50 Country Way, for $108.54 signed under the Municipal Modernization Act to Gatehouse Media for legal ad for 67 Old Oaken Bucket Road, the accessory dwelling, for $19,746.31 to Horsley Witten for a peer review inspections at Seaside and Scituate.
Is there a second?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now we have liaison reports. EDC, we met on Monday night, and we are looking at granite mile markers. There were 3 in the town of Scituate. We are looking at open space on Countryway, a 20,000 square foot lot that abuts the reservoir. And the question is, it's all wet, it probably can't be built on, and who knows how much it may or may not be worth. Open space, 436 Chief Justice Cushing Highway. This was from Brad Washburn. Those of you that traverse back and forth on Route 3A, if you're familiar, there's the reservoir, and then there's that little antique cape just past the reservoir before you go up the hill that's been for sale forever. Are you familiar?
Okay.
Yeah,
Mhm.
okay.
I'll trust you on that one.
Well, the thought is to purchase that. Eventually, we may be raising the water level of the reservoir, but it's in umpteen different, it has 7 different things over it, water protection, FEMA, everything. So I'm not sure where that's gonna go. And they want $400,000 or more for it. Then we have an application for aquaculture out in, it's our property, but the town's property, but it's out in Minot,
Briggs Harbor,
Briggs
I
Harbor.
guess they would call that, yeah.
Yeah, okay, by Sandy Beach, out there. So there was discussion about that. The North Situate Village, the Friends of North Situate want to finally finish the canopy and put lighting, picnic benches, barrels, and make it look pretty, because it looks like who did it left at this moment in time. It was never finished. So that's what's going on. Our chairman is leaving town with a forwarding address, but he may or may not be back, so we have a vacancy. That's all the new, and EDC meets Monday night, so don't have anything from that. Anybody else?
Can I ask if the North Situate Merchants people talked about cleaning up Jamie's?
That is really up to the building inspector to enforce cleaning up. And he was told by the Board of Selectmen in April to get it cleaned up. And here we are in July. So that's that. Ben, do you have anything?
Last week, the Master Plan Advisory Committee met. Some of the members of the planning board were in attendance. I thought it was a good group, and it was a good start to the overall project. And the big news on that is that the public kickoff for the master plan update is going to be on Tuesday, August 13th at 6:30 p.m. at Gates Middle School. And 2 weeks prior to the meeting, there will be official notices on the town website and calendar online. So, but we're really going to try to
Greg,
spread
could
the
you grab
word.
door? Thank you.
Really try to spread the word to your networks and
Okay.
people that would be
I
good to
suggested
come
to
on.
Brad that they put something
Thank
up
you.
on the public safety,
On the
sign.
board, yeah.
On the sign so we can be
That'd be-
distracted?
Well, I mean, it's there now, we can't do anything about it, right? So,
There's a
but it's pretty
wonderful
visible.
floating flag on the 4th of July. I thought that was against the sign bylaw, so that's supposed to be animated.
Municipal, whatever. Are you all set?
Yeah, I don't have any other real updates right now from the other groups.
Steve?
Nope, unfortunately, I was on the train, so I never made it back in time.
Bill? Patty?
Not yet, no.
Okay.
Did anybody want to talk about design review?
Oh, right.
Yeah, that was like watching grass grow.
Sorry.
It was
No, no,
wonderful. No. Okay, design review. Who's the
Who's that?
liaison?
I technically
But then
am.
you tell everybody what happened.
So design review met this week on Tuesday to go over the newest iteration of the senior center. They kind of walked through the plan, explained kind of the general campus feel that they're going for, and addressed just kind of like the elevations, building materials, things like that. There was actually a large public turnout, which is not typical for design review committee meetings, nor are they really set up for a lot of public comment. But there were some, we did take some comments, and they're generally about abutter concerns, and then also just in support of the project generally. So it was
So they had a new layout?
not
is it the one we've seen?
No, it's different than when they came before us
Uh-huh.
with the informal, like a week before town meeting or whatever that was. It's different than that. The building's moved a little bit. They moved the big emergency generator system is moved over, but unfortunately, it's actually at the front of the building, so that's what you would see from the
Other
road.
side.
And I'm trying to think what else changed on it. Some of the pedestrian access paths moved around a little bit. I think there's a couple, with the new location of the building, there's a couple trees that have to come down. Nothing super substantive.
Nothing that changes the parking or the access.
No,
No.
No.
nothing. It's just about the building. That's it.
Still not enough parking. 127 spaces in the whole thing. On the whole site.
So are we expecting some kind of input from the DRC?
Yes, they will have some type of memo to you prior to the meeting, and, I mean, some comments, some helpful comments were made on the architecture of the building, and they're going to look into it as well.
Did you discuss moving things like the building over to,
No,
No, because they thought it was in
the best place it could be.
the best place it could be, based on, quote, what a campus feels like, and they justified that to the DRC. So I
And this-
imagine they will be providing that information
I hope so.
to you as well. And on a positive note, it was authorized that the pair traffic study undergo peer review. So that is, hopefully we'll have that for the meeting on August 8th.
All right, gentlemen, you might as well come forward because you're on.
Why don't I have to do this?
Oh, yeah, wait a minute. You can come forward. We just have to read one thing here. Go ahead.
I move to accept the applicant's request to withdraw the application for a stormwater permit for over 40,000 square feet of disturbance without prejudice at 27 Wood Road.
Is there a second?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
And that's because that's all gone to the Conservation Commission, because more work is in the 100-foot buffer zone than they initially thought. So Conservation is handling that.
I don't know.
Pictures,
No,
thank you.
it's yours.
Different than this? Oh, my.
Mine always takes a walk.
Can I have one of those already, or is that an updated version? Yeah,
Yeah, we printed some off.
same thing, same difference.
Can I get one? Thank you.
This one's on heavier stock.
I misplaced my agenda.
You can share mine, I have two.
Well, thank you so much.
I have two.
You too?
Not always.
Okay. All right, gentlemen, we're now continuing the public hearing on the Drew Company, MBTA 247 Driftway.
Attorney Robert Galvin for the record. Hopefully we can give you a quick status update, tell you what we think we need to do that's left. So first thing we've done, and hopefully you've seen it by now, is we responded point by point to the abutters engineers letter on July 2nd. You should have that in your files. We've also submitted a proposed draft decision on July 3rd to the planning department, and I've spoken with Karen, so I know that that's something that we're both going to continue to try to work on. That was modeled after some of your prior decisions that, on equivalent projects. If the board thinks that that's acceptable, then please use whatever you can. As you may be aware, we are, and as we indicated in the response letter, we are in the process of now finalizing some changes to the site plan, and I'll have our engineers and team explain that. The few changes that we're making, the changes that we're making are basically to ensure zoning compliance in response to some of the concerns that were raised. We expect that we will have the final plans together, ready for submission and review by peer review on July 25th. And we would be optimistically looking for the board to have the board close the public hearing on the 8th and consider the project as a whole that night and potentially vote on the matter. So, John, do you want to offer anything else?
Sure, I can just quickly talk through the changes that were made in the plan, if that's helpful. We had discussed last time we were here, but we didn't show it on the site plan. There was an exit originally onto New Driftway. We had a drive-through and coming off another exit there. There were some concerns about that exit, so we've eliminated that exit. We've also took another look at setbacks from the street and a little bit more closely on zoning, so we've addressed those concerns. Part of what happened there was we lost the 2 spaces that were there closer to the road. We've eliminated those entirely and moved them elsewhere on the site, so we still comply there. So that's I guess a major change from last time we were here. Self-lane, we indicated last time as a one-way. We're showing it now on the plan. We have also eliminated an entrance into Building C residential, and part of this is to address the grading concerns. So we're going to be showing you more of that by the 25th. But I'm just giving you a sense of what you'll see there that's changed. More green space, more landscaping, and earth. We also
What entrance was eliminated?
There was an entrance, into the parking garage, residential building C.
From South Lane.
From South Lane.
Over
There was an
here.
entrance and an egress there.
Yeah.
So that stair shaft isn't an entrance?
It's a pedestrian, but not vehicle.
Oh, it was a vehicle access?
There was.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I didn't understand that.
Oh, sorry. Sure. There you go.
That was over on this side here.
Yeah, no, I get you. I
Yeah.
thought you were talking about a pedestrian access.
So South Lane's two-way.
It's one way.
One way.
There's a reason it has arrows going both directions?
That's into the parking garage.
And how do you get out of the parking garage?
You come out and then you come down and you take a right onto
It's
Central
one
Way.
way up until Center Way.
Right.
Oh, okay,
And then you'd come out this way.
okay.
Gotcha.
So, am I missing any other?
Gonna need be big do not enter signs there.
Those were some of the major changes. Obviously, we're looking at addressing the concerns about adding fill and the height and other things, but we'll show those. We have addressed those, we think, but we'll show those to you by the 25th.
Okay, and you've added some residential to Building A?
Correct. We took 2 units out of Building B to address the concerns about height, and they're now going into Building A. It won't change the look of Building A from the exterior at all. We had commercial space in there anyhow that we're just basically reconfiguring for 2 residential units.
And where will they park?
We've moved some of the parking. We've shifted some of the residential parking down closer to the Building A
Mhm.
to address that.
You can see it's over here.
Yep.
It might be worth mentioning, we showed last time a plan that we had consolidated crosswalks. We had one mid-block and then crosswalk at either end. We tweaked that. We went back and looked at the one-way on South Lane. We tweaked it to tweaked it very slightly because there are less turning movements at that location. It's very similar to what you've shown before, I believe it's in the.
Yeah, it was included as the overall site
Yes.
plan, along with the signage.
So I'm not sure I followed that. So did you move one? Or did you relocate it or something, or?
We moved it slightly. It's actually now on the south side of the middle driveway as opposed to the north side. And we thought that actually was better because it's more midway, and it's also, it does address.
So shown here, it's not in the location you're currently
It's
expecting?
not- It's not where it's shown on this plan.
Okay.
It's on the engineering.
It's
side.
further to the south.
It's further to the side. It's.
Okay.
Yeah, just show.
So it's on this side of the driveway rather than that side. And
Mhm.
another thing we liked about it was it does actually address if people are coming out of this, on this sidewalk, that they're heading to the station.
Mhm.
It better serves both locations. But it's still a proposed mid-block, rapid flashing signal control light.
Thank you.
Karen?
That pretty much sums up the changes that they have been working on. I did confirm with Deputy Fire Chief today that he's satisfied with the egress, having two means of egress, one from New Driftway and one from Old Driftway, so there's adequate fire means to get in and out, and public health, safety, and welfare is addressed there.
Okay. Okay, comments from the board? Ben?
Nothing at this time.
I'll leave you for,
Go ahead.
Bill?
All set.
I'm all set.
Public comment? No public comment, okay. So we gave you an hour and we've taken exactly 6 minutes. We called you in because we felt that it was important that you go over these changes with us now rather than at the next time, so that we have everything, all of your ducks and our ducks in a row, okay?
Very good.
So, is there anything else, Karen, that we need to discuss with this?
Like Attorney Galvin said, we're working, they've given me a draft of some findings of fact, and I'm working on integrating them into a draft decision that the board will see, as well as the applicant prior to the next meeting, and also town council will have weighed in on it as well.
Could I ask a question just in the responses, the markup responses you provided? There was a discussion about the inspection of the existing underground catchment or whatever it is, and
This is on the MBTA
yeah,
land. Yeah, we've reached out to the T. We're going to try and get that done
Yeah.
prior to the 25th, the submittal on the 25th.
Okay.
We need their approval to go onto the site.
yeah, no, I was trying to follow the description in there, and it sounded like what you were saying is, obviously that's owned by somebody else, right?
It's the MBTA, so we,
But that your stormwater designs somehow didn't rely on that particular device. And so I just wanted to make sure I understood that, right?
engineering.
Sure. For the record, John Ford, civil engineer with Horsley Witten. So we believe, as a redevelopment site, given the existing condition with the high level of impervious, that the improved conditions with the proposed bioretention recharge basin, that we're addressing the standards and town requirements to the maximum extent practicable for water quality and reducing flows. So relying upon that system will further enhance the treatment. So we'd like to see if that system is functioning to boost our removal efficiencies.
But without tying into that, can you build this site without sort of
Yes.
draining into that system at any point?
The flows go there now.
Yeah,
So they would continue to go there with an improved water quality and no increase in flows.
No increase in flows? Okay.
Correct, so there would
So
be
you,
flow
you
going-
you guys are sort of tied to it, even though you don't own it,
Correct.
right? Okay. That's what I was trying to understand. So, and did the MBTA say they were gonna do some kind of inspection?
They haven't responded yet, but it's not totally surprising. But we haven't had an issue getting onto the land, doing testing or anything, so I don't
Right.
suspect.
Right. But your system is reliant on their system in order for the whole thing to function.
And we have the right to use it.
Right. You have an easement for it?
We have a right to tie into it, right?
We do.
Okay.
Have you passed papers on the property?
I guess that is an update. We have, yes. It's a
Okay.
major update. I probably should have started with that.
So it's yours.
It is.
It's all yours.
Yep.
Okay.
lot.
And where is this system on the other side of the street that you're tying into?
It is, yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right, well, we know how quickly the MBTA responds.
We are trying to get this done before the 25th, we've talked about.
We could go in and look at it on our own, but it would be, we'd like their approval.
No, the way it was written, it sounded like, well, you didn't need that system because you're fully contained, but you're not really. You're actually connected at the hip, right, with that. And
That's true.
your system doesn't work without it.
True.
Right, okay. That's what I wanted to be clear on.
We can clarify that.
All right.
All right, so it would be great if we could, get the MBTA to move and evaluate that.
Yes, sir.
Just,
A name, please?
Charles Peebo, 60 New Driftway. What's the groundbreaking to finish time period look like?
We were hoping to break ground before the end of the year. And Bob, what was the last estimate? Was it 18 months?
Last estimate was 16 months of actual construction time.
Okay.
That's the occupancy.
That's the initial certificate of occupancy, yes.
As a follow-up to that question, what will happen during construction phasing in terms of parking spaces that might be needed in that side? Do you have a plan for that?
We do. Again, the T has requested that we maintain 50 spaces during construction. So we have to just work with them on our, phasing.
And how
But
that-
we've committed to working with them on it, yeah.
So you'll
They
block
estimated,
off.
they've been looking at their own need during
Yeah.
daily need, and that's where that number comes from.
That's their number?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you'll just block off spaces, and
Up
then
to
if you need to go
access.
somewhere, you'll block other spaces off.
Correct.
So basically less than 18 months from start to finish?
That's what we're being told, yes.
Okay, well,
I
that's,
think you put 18 in, but you comfortable. 16, I think is good now, but 18 you got.
okay, so a year and a half,
Yeah,
boy, you're going to go in and do it.
we are.
Okay.
No phasing, right?
No
You said
phasing.
that last
So
time.
it's
not our
all at
plan.
once.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Just another question. I know last time I was here, maybe it's been answered, but who was gonna manage the property?
We haven't,
We're
we're
gonna be-
gonna be the manager, but we're gonna have someone on site, but we're not at this time intending to have a third-party management company.
Yeah.
We'll work on that.
That could change though, but right now, we think we can,
You'll be well aware of what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Okay?
And is, we talked a little bit about it last time, but are you going to get this LEED certified?
we are aiming for LEED certification, yes.
And what level? Just
I don't
curious.
know yet.
We probably gonna come in, we won't make gold.
Mhm.
We'll be silver.
Silver?
Our projects, I think I mentioned to you, our project, our goal in Boston, but it's hard on this project to make it gold.
Can I ask what makes it harder?
Site restraints, actually, we could use, if we had more of that parking up above and various things like that, it would be a little bit easier. I think when it comes to water management, I'm sorry, when it comes to water and water management, water flow and things like that, we're fine. We'll be fine on that. I think on the cooling system overall, we'll be good there. But there's some other things I think that, quite frankly, you'd look for in the build-out of the actual apartments that the rent doesn't allow you to do down here. But I think, I'd be honest with you, I think that standards will be a good standard. Silver will be fine, so,
Do you have a sense for what the market rents are going to be there?
yeah, we do have that. It's well,
The rents are, yeah, they'll be comparable with other properties in Hingham, Cohasset, and there is a transit-oriented development, landed 53 in Weymouth, which is also, it's on the commuter rail, and we're looking at some of the units in Quincy that are near in Quincy Center. So, you know, we haven't refined it completely yet, but those are the comparable properties we're looking at.
So what is the range, price-wise?
I think you're probably talking maybe $2,250 to $2,500 for a one-bedroom, and you're approaching the $3,000 for the two-bedroom. But once again, we're in the process of doing that now that we have the precise layout of the site.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, anything else from anybody? All right, Patty?
I move to accept the applicant's request to continue the public hearing for the mixed-use special permit in the Village Business Overlay District for the Drew Company, Incorporated at 247 Driftway until August 8, 2019 at 8:30 p.m., and continue the time for action until September 4, 2019.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming in. I
Yep.
really appreciate it.
Shopping for Christmas.
Yeah. We are flying through this. We still have 45 minutes to our next one. All right. I'll entertain a motion to take a 15-minute break.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay.
Those
Online? You all set? Thank you. All right, before we get started, you have what?
I have a couple of things
All
I
right.
need to talk about for the planning and development report. So I went out to Toll Brothers yesterday and walked the line for the temporary fence that's going to be at the, adjacent to the Wampatuck School. They're going to be setting some new control out there to verify the placement of the erosion control, but we're not having them actually put the fence on the property line. We're having them put the fence on the inside of the erosion control, because there is some areas where there is some little bit of vegetation, and it might be nice to keep what little bit of vegetation there is, instead of having it all cut down. But they were wondering if at all you would consider that fence could be permanent.
Could be what?
Could be a permanent fence.
A permanent fence.
I mean, I said the idea was that it was supposed to be a temporary fence with it's supposed to be a temporary fence with a privacy shield, and they're just asking if they wanted, could it be a permanent fence?
Will they take care of it? As long as the town's not paying for it?
I mean, because they were getting some costs in that were suggesting that it's the same cost to put a temporary fence as it is to put a permanent fence. And I think I said, well, I'll ask the board.
I don't have a problem how tall is this fence?
It's like a 6-foot chain link fence.
And if it were a black chain link fence? Ben?
I could be okay with it, but personally, I couldn't tell you tonight. I want to look at the 60-foot buffer landscape plan first to kind of see. I don't remember in that area what the design intent of the landscape buffer was, but I kind of would like to just personally review that before
Okay,
I decide.
no problem.
But I don't know about it. That's just me.
I mean, they're looking for an answer fairly quickly because, and I said we were meeting tonight because potentially, I'm not sure, I think they're a little bit behind what they estimated on their scheduling. They may be looking to install that fence next week, just the fence, before going into phase 2.
What's the difference between a permanent and a temporary fence physically? Is there any difference?
Physically, I think a permanent fence, they were thinking a permanent fence would have slats, and a temporary fence would have the fabric for the privacy shield.
I would say no.
I can get more information.
I like either of those.
I don't either.
I mean, as a temporary fence, I guess the fabric's okay, right?
And how visible is the
The
fence?
question is, what, do we want a permanent, like, visual barrier there?
We need to have pictures. It's worth 1,000 words.
Because the idea was that would be removed and there would be
Right.
no physical barrier.
Right, there would be
right?
no physical barrier, that the landscape buffer would be the
The barrier,
barrier.
yeah.
Right,
And that's one thing that's pretty
Which
clear.
would
in
look
the-
better.
which would look better.
Fine, temporary.
Okay.
Let it go at that. We made-
So-
Do you all feel that way?
Yes.
Well, unless somebody comes in with some wow plan that's permanent, like, you know, a really cool looking fence.
Yeah, I kind of doubt that. I
Cedar
think they were
and-
thinking black chain link fence.
They only have 2 models of fence.
The problem with those slats is they get all bent and some go missing, and it looks like broken teeth, you know?
Okay,
No,
so temporary.
temporary.
All right, that answers that question. I think they're running a little bit behind the 8 ball, but I have scheduled a site walk with them for next Thursday, July 18th at 3 o'clock to see how many items on that list they have done, and they are fully aware they have to meet every item on the list from the last meeting. They're having a little, shall we say, a little water issue out there.
Or
They,
lack thereof?
The lack thereof.
So the wells aren't delivering.
They can't use the wells yet because the wells don't have a certificate of compliance from the Board of Health. They've just, they tested the one well, but they don't have the results back. They haven't submitted the information to even get a certificate of compliance. So,
I'm just saying volumetrically, do they have enough water?
that one was the high, they drilled a couple out there, and one of them was, I think 40 gallons a minute, was what they said. I could be wrong.
That's a lot,
It is?
yeah.
Oh.
And so that was the best producing one. One of them was only 10. So they have one that is potentially very viable, that's down by Tilden Road.
Mhm.
And that's the one they're hoping to start using, but at this point, they can't use it. They had a street sweeper break, so hopefully the roads got swept today. You know, I was concerned about that because of potential rain tonight, and, but they know what they have to have done prior to going into phase 2. So, we'll see.
Does anybody here want to do the walk at 3 PM on the 17th,
The 18th.
18th? Can't?
They have had a lot of actual growth in the,
That's right, do that.
in the temporary seating since when we went out there. But they know that dust control is incredibly important, and if they're not ready on the 18th,
They're not ready.
then it'll be pushed off
Okay.
till they're ready.
All right. Ben, what,
Just remember when we said temporary fence,
Send
it
me,
means
like,
the
an email
temporary
next
fence
week.
still has to
It might
last
be a
like
tough time, but-
2 or 3 years, right?
Right.
It's not like it can fall over in a month.
No, that they understand that. I mean,
Okay.
they understand that.
That's why it's probably as much as a permanent fence, because it
Probably.
really is
That's why
permanent fence.
that's why actually they're going to establish control over that area, a better control over that area in the site, check the location of where the silt fence, it was actually installed, and see how close they came to establishing the right line, because I guess your signals in the dense tree cover can get, you know, a little muted, so. But they're going to be doing that, you know, tomorrow, the next day, you know, Monday, establishing that to really fine tune that line.
Okay.
So other than that, I believe they've submitted a bunch of applications for building permits, starting to move up into the Lois Ann Court side of the, so I'll be looking at them probably next week. White Ash Farm, the DPW did not get the storm scepter installed, so we need to give back the money, even though the storm scepter's already been purchased. That was a condition of the special permit for the flexible open space.
Can we ask for an extension?
DPW asked in it,
If I can address the board, we did reach out to the contractor, the developer, and requested an additional time to do it. One of the issues that we're having is the storm scepter turns out to be over 18 feet deep. It was going to cost in excess almost $35,000 to put in. So although we appreciate $10,000 for the storm scepter, the money to install it was significant. So we weren't necessarily set up to do that at that time. So we pushed it off. We still have the storm scepter made. We will purchase that and purchase it through our budget, and we'll use it for something in the future, like a parking lot or another area of town when the time comes. But it is a big structure, but the 18-foot depth is significant for us. Installation, we can't solve it all, so we have to bring in outside.
So what's the implication of not putting it in? I mean, we did it for a reason, so if we're not going to install it, what's the implication? Do you remember?
it was an exchange for water quality and the work that was done right outside the, 150-foot boundary for the tributary. But the condition clearly states that if it wasn't installed within 5 years from the date of endorsement, the money had to be given back.
Yeah, I'm not even talking about the money. I'm just saying if we give the money back and we don't do it, then what are we giving up that we were expecting to get?
I think it was a trade-off, and at some point I wasn't here for the discussions of that, but I believe it was a trade-off at that time to do some water quality improvements towards the reservoir. And that was one of the ways that eventually the storm scepter up country.
So we kind of lost that then? We're not doing the water quality improvements then? Is
We're
what it
not
sounds
doing
like?
the water quality improvements on Country Way itself. The development satisfied.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the
in-
development, but this
in-
was,
right,
this was the
a-
trade-off, this was the deal,
trade-off,
right?
Yes.
How come it took 5 years to come to this point?
I'd have to ask my guys to tell you for sure. They quoted it to me, it was supposed to be, and one of the things that came up with was the cost of installation of the structure. There was also some problems with the construction of the storm scepter. It had to go up to design. In the future, it's a great idea to put a storm scepter in or something to that effect, but we don't have the equipment or necessarily the funds necessary to put in some of these larger structures. So if there are future things made like this, I would request that it would include installation of the structure itself or something to that effect, because we can't always provide it.
Well, I think we got the input from you, right? I mean, we didn't make it up, right? So we got the input from the DPW.
Possibly.
There was communication with DPW when you
Yeah.
guys were going through the permitting
Yeah.
process, and I don't think it was expected to be a very, that big of a structure and that deep in the ground.
Right. There's no way we can know that. You have to know that if you're asking us
Well,
to.
we don't know
provide
until it's
support.
designed. So, we didn't know the design on that particular location. But it's unfortunate. We would prefer, obviously, we would have rather had it in, but it wasn't something we could go on.
Yeah, well, maybe in the future, we should understand just how maybe conceptual things are that we're asking the developer to do. Because, I mean, that was kind of part of our discussion was kind of the trade-off, right? And so
Right.
if what we're trading off has limited or no value, then we shouldn't make that trade-off, right?
Right, I mean, that's why we're trying to seek comments. Whenever plans change, we are trying to seek comments from departments so that it's, they're seeing the latest things too, as you know, plans change during a permitting process. So we are trying to provide, if a comment's needed, we'll go and ask them.
I know, we've done that quite often, right?
Right.
It wasn't clear to me at the time that whatever we were talking about was that conceptual, that we might not be able to do it at all.
Okay. Anything else, Karen?
No, we remain swamped as usual, but, one project at a time.
Okay. Do you want to
We
make
can't
any?
do one project at a time.
Yeah.
You have to do them in parallel.
We're working on multiple
Issues.
at the time.
Okay, do you want to make any comment on 50 Country Way?
50 Country Way, they need some, they still have temporary C of Os, and I sent them, we just got the engineering peer review of the as-built back, and so I sent them an email today, giving them the engineering peer review of the as-built, and some issues need to be addressed.
Is that the last thing?
There are still some structural
Or
things.
the other things?
What I included in the email was the as-built, there's a hydrant that needs to be painted, and I pointed out some architectural issues that were different from the plan, so I suggested they either wanted to have an architect certification that it was built per the plan, or why were the plans changed?
Is this on the front building,
Um,
or is it on the?
Some of it was on the balconies. The balconies don't have those fancy supports that were on the approved plans. I don't believe the building has shutters. Some of the windows were supposed to have shutters. And so those were two things that I know were definite, and so I put that in the email.
All right, are you all set then?
Yep.
We will continue then with a public meeting on a site plan administrative review for the municipal water treatment plant, well 17A, 90 and 96 Tack Factory Pond. Gentlemen, you're on. Good evening. Okay. All right, who's doing what here?
By all means, we'll do introductions. First of all, Kim Kaplan, the DPW Director, Sean Anderson, the Water Superintendent, Ryan Paprika, Ty and Bond, and my transfer Ty and Bond completed the design. As you're aware, well 17A is a critical well. for
Could you
our-
speak into the microphone, please? Thank you so much.
So it's a critical area for our infrastructure. It's also been one of the major causes of brown water in the past because it is a high manganese iron well. We are looking to install a filtration building onto this and being able to use that water directly in the system for future use. We feel it'll be a huge improvement to our system, as well as give us some added modifications to our water quality and water availability. So, that being said,
we have the plans before you. We had Ty and Bond put together. Go from there, and I can hand it over to Ty and Bond and let them explain it again if you'd like.
Okay?
Right. So,
Would you just identify yourself, sir?
Yep. Ryan Pavlika with Time Bond. So, well 17A, as Kevin mentioned, is a well that's high in iron and manganese. So, in order to treat for that iron and manganese and to remove that, we are installing a green sand filtration system. It's going to consist of 3 separate units and rated for about 360 GPM max output through the plant. As mentioned previously, there'll be 4 chemicals that are also used in the treatment process. There'll be sodium hypochlorite, which is used for oxidation and disinfection for the water, and potassium permanganate, also used for oxidation, sodium fluoride for dental health, and potassium hydroxide for pH control and corrosion control in the system. Also on the site, there will be a underground backwash tank for backwash of the 3 filtration units. That backwash water will be pumped to the existing 17A transmission line that currently sends water to Old Oaken Bucket Pond, but will be reutilized as a new sewer line, which will be connected to Old Oaken Bucket, the sewer system that's currently at that site. Also at the site.
Excuse me, could you back up a little bit?
It's not sewer, it's.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Discharge line.
Discharge for the
bottom
backwash
of
water.
the green sand filter. So we'll clarify that.
Thank you.
But it's going to the sewer system.
Eventually gets to the sewer system, yes.
Okay, so it's an additional load on the sewer system.
Correct.
Correct.
How big a load?
So the backwash, if I recall, I think I'd have to go back into our calculations for the backwash. I don't currently have that information for you.
But we coordinated that with the sewer department, and it's a hydraulic load, which is a consideration here, but it's not a biological load. It's basically inert material.
Right, but it's a flow in the sewer system.
Oh, yeah,
Correct.
but we've been in.
It's going to the sewer treatment plant.
Correct, and we've been in.
Yeah. How much is going? It seems like it would be a lot of water.
It's not. I mean, they're not backwash that often.
Correct, and it's pretty periodic. So I would
What does that
probably
mean? Once a
put it-
day, once a week, once a month?
These I believe were designed for once every 2 to 3 days backwash. But we can certainly get back to you in terms of definitive amounts for sure. Also on the site will be a storage.
Just so, I'm just trying to follow this because,
Oh, sure.
you know, sewer capacity is a problem in this town, right? So, is it designed such that the backwash happens in off-peak periods?
We can design it during that period of time. So this will have its own SCADA system associated with it. So we can certainly build in timers to do it during off-peak.
I would suggest we do that then.
Yep.
Sean, you've used these in the past, typically, how many gallons of water, backwash water?
It depends on the diameter of the unit. But to give you just an idea, this past winter, we had to do emergency repairs at the treatment plant. So we had a treatment system set up for 17A. And we were able to do the full flow through the treatment system. And we had to backwash the vessels every day.
Mhm.
Actually,
There were 9 vessels there, yeah?
9 vessels in backwash on a daily basis, 10 minutes for each vessel. And there were no problems with
Did they discharge to the same place?
discharging to system.
I thought you were reusing a pipe, so did you do something different?
No,
Oh, they
piping
discharge to a
is,
different location.
yeah, the piping you saw above ground, which is bringing the raw water in, backwash water in, and then the finished water just,
That was down at the treatment plant, though,
yeah.
not up here.
Are you all set
Yeah,
for the moment?
for the moment.
Go ahead, thank
There
you.
really is no alternative either to, if we don't discharge it to the sewer, you have to truck it out.
I'm not suggesting you don't discharge it to the sewer, I'm just suggesting we manage it because sewer capacity
And we
is a
have,
problem,
and we-
right?
You know, we were working with the entire DPW on this and had meetings with Will and talked about his loads and his concerns, and
Our,
so this won't be a surprise to him.
our surface water treatment plant, we pump our liquids from our sedimentation basins, some of the sludge from our sedimentation basins. We pump those off-peak hours at a very low rate. Usually all weekend long is when we likes to have it, 10 gallons per minute or less. And then the weekdays just overnights. So
Yeah,
the ability
sounds
to
like a good
program the
plan.
clock on the services.
Okay, go ahead, thank you.
Also on the site, there will be a backup generator and also a above-ground storage tank, which is used for finished water and backwash water for the units. And additionally, we have the driveway, which generates some new impervious surface, as well as the buildings. So to mitigate that additional stormwater, we've incorporated a infiltration pond to capture and infiltrate that stormwater on site. I think that that covers the general site and the treatment plant process. If you have any additional questions, we can field that.
Karen?
So right now, the Conservation Commission is in the public hearing process for the project because it's in the 100-foot buffer zone as well as some other resource areas. The comments from the engineering peer review seem to suggest that they need to do a few more things, which most of the changes have been made in this set of plans that we received yesterday, and maybe one test pit to verify the infiltration system will work, and that's 3 feet above groundwater. But they did give a justification of how they came up with the elevation in the infiltration basin based on some of the well out there, and it makes sense that everything will be above the 3 feet above and meet the requirements of the Water Resource Protection District and, Wetlands Protection Act. So because I think you condition a notice of intent to be part of a conditions that you incorporate by reference into your conditions, I would think that it would be acceptable to basically approve it for the board now. I think they'll be able to meet those conditions. But the Conservation Commission just got the material yesterday, and so they have to have it engineer peer reviewed, the changes again.
Did that include the test pit results?
No, they haven't done the test, but can you speak to
Yes.
how you came up with your justification for the
Correct.
level of the infiltration basin?
Yep. So essentially the bottom of the basin is at 52 feet. And based on the wetland boundary, we estimate that the high groundwater level is around 49 feet. So you do have that 3 foot separation. But we've also conducted borings near the infiltration pond. Probably the nearest borings about 60 feet from the infiltration pond at this point. And the soils are coming up sandy, gravelly type soils, similar to what was presented in the NRCS soils mapping. And the groundwater level at that location as well was 3 feet below the ground surface, which corresponds pretty well with that 48 to 49 foot that we've based our design on currently.
The groundwater from the borings?
That's correct. Yep, from the surface.
Which agrees with the well.
But correct.
Okay.
So it's just there, from 49 to 52?
Correct.
Yeah, so it's
Close.
close.
Very close.
3 feet.
You know, it's important too, we were discussing this, that this is not a public road. There's no traffic. So the loadings and the, the sand, it's just not gonna get vehicle travel the same as a typical road would. So this is really just a,
It's an access road.
This is about managing the stormwater, though, is what we're talking about.
correct, but the
Right.
concern is always
Okay.
about the pollutants and the sedimentation and the, the other things that come along with vehicle traffic.
All right. Ben?
I don't have anything major on the site plan. I do have a couple comments on the landscaping plan. One, there's no seed mix specified, and I know some of this you're probably going to be dealing with conservation because it's in their jurisdiction, the stormwater area over there, but there's no seed mix specified. I was curious what sort of seed mix you're proposing for the infiltration basin.
We can certainly work with Concom at this point. That would be, we wouldn't necessarily put it on the plans. It would be a part of the specifications. So we can work with Concom in terms of what they would want us to use. It would typically be a native conservation mix or something along those lines.
Okay. And then the other couple comments on it was just that on the detail on the plans on some of the specs that were put in, these are mostly all evergreen trees, and it says to use slow release drip irrigation bags. I was just going to point out that those, as I'm in that field, in the landscape construction field, and they're pretty difficult to put on smaller and mid-size evergreen trees that are put in. So just think about that spec and how these trees out in this location are going to get watered. And then also to make your job a little bit easier, I think that the size of the excavation for the root ball is probably more generous than you need.
Okay.
It's listed as 3 times the width of the root ball. It's a lot of digging.
Yeah.
I would say twice double the size is probably industry standard that I've seen.
Okay.
All right, Bill?
Yeah, what, concerned about the usage on the road? And they get, what, strictly for the chemicals
And the daily visits.
and daily visits? Right, and how often do you get deliveries, chemical deliveries?
Typically monthly. Typically, we get monthly chemical deliveries, less on the dry chemicals. The liquid chemicals are usually once a month.
Okay.
Which ones are going to be the liquid chemicals?
That would be the potassium hydroxide for the pH adjustment,
Uh-huh.
and the sodium hypochlorite for the chlorine disinfection.
So basically, other than a daily trip up, back and forth, and then once a month for chemical deliveries?
We anticipate twice because they come from different sources.
Chemicals.
That's a good point.
Yep.
Okay.
All set, Bill?
Yep.
Patty?
It is my understanding that you visit every single well every single day.
7 days a week, 365.
And I know you can't promise us this, but groundwater this year is over the top. So do we think it's this well? Do we think are you hoping this is gonna help mitigate what's going on in Country Way? And
So, that's a whole other topic, but I'll gladly address it to anybody that'll listen to it. There are 2 wells that notoriously went into the system, 17 and 18. We've eliminated both of those wells from going into the system. The past 2 years, we've not used it. Well 17A is used, it's pumped over to the pond over at the reservoir, and then it goes through the treatment plant and then goes out into the into the system. So it's treated, but the plant's not designed to take iron and manganese out of the system. The other issue that occurs there is we'd be able to put it directly into the system after adding the filtration to it. So what will occur, and I'll let Sean add onto this because I'm probably missing something, by having this well on, we will hopefully have to run the treatment plant less. When we turn the treatment plant on, we cause turbulent flow in the system, because it's the equivalent of, say, 3 to even 4 wells pumping out into the system at the same time. So it does cause change in direction of the flows, which is, I think everybody knows in Scituate, when you change direction of the flows, you create some sediment. Now, we're still working to eliminate as much of the sediment as we can. What we're going after is the stuff that's still existing in the pipes from this well being used for years and years and years.
Thank you.
Anything to add to that? Or
No, that sums it up pretty good, where at well 18B, as Kevin was talking about, we took that offline well over a year ago, about a year and a half ago at this point. But we're at the very end of having new treatment installed inside the building, because we were fortunate enough that the building was big enough to install treatment inside there. And we're waiting for just a final approval from DEP to put that online.
So we
That'll
added
be
a green
another-
sand filter to that well also.
Yep.
The results were spectacular from both, because we used this well when we had the treatment plant shut down. We ran it through a temporary green sand filter.
So I think the takeaway from this is nobody really wants a well in their backyard, but it is for a general good, and we need to think about what's good for everybody in a very magnanimous way. But we understand that,
And
I
this-
understand.
Well 17A would be our second highest producing well.
Sean, the concern about the water quality, the water department maintains a application on their website where they collect data, and we regularly request it so that we can monitor it. We did the kind of bond, the hydraulic model, so we've modeled the direction of flows and all that, and we call them complaints because that's what people call them. We don't call it, we consider it data. And we want to know where is it, why is it, how does this mesh with what we thought? And we do pay close attention to that to see, that informs future cleaning operations on the pipes and stuff, and it's, it's something that's on everybody's mind. And please, for everybody, if you get it, please go on and click, because we need to know.
Yep.
We wonder, is people just give up, do they stop, do they, we really want to know to get
give up.
cause and effect and say,
So
that it's working or not.
if you look at that drawing up there on the wall, I presented that to the selectmen the other night. That's the location between the 28th to the 8th of all the calls we received. So what we did is we tracked a lot of the calls down and found out what the reasons were. We had a big problem over at Hilltop and Davis. Sorry if I'm getting off.
That's all right.
It's okay.
People want to hear this.
Yeah.
Where we found it was an older subdivision, it wasn't approved by you guys, it was 1955 it went in, but it only came in one direction. It was never connected up to Cudworth. Hilltop wasn't. It was supposed to be connected in the future, it never was. So there was kind of one link that went in there, and it was causing a lot of problems with the groundwater. And in one home in particular, we found a huge problem the way they installed their service in the house, and we're in the process of remedying that, which will help that neighborhood. And we probably took 15 calls, 17 calls alone just in that neighborhood, Sean?
Just in that neighborhood, and we've actually gotten, 2 emails thanking us, clearing up the water. So we were able to go out, we were able to flush that area.
Now, have you looped it into Cudworth?
We haven't done that
No,
yet.
because it requires installing, 300 feet of pipe, and, it's gonna be a lot of work to do, and it's gonna be costly. So, it's something we're lining up. And that's not the only location. Scituate Trail, the hydrants don't go all the way down to the end, nothing's looped. So we have 800-foot stretches where there are no hydrants at the end, so there's no way to lead off the lines. And that's unfortunately a common case in a lot of these subdivisions that we have. Now, anytime a new subdivision goes in, we're required to loop, and as a minimum, a hydrant at the end of the line so we can't flush. So that's one of the things we're looking at. we're dealing with in those particular areas. Yeah, we found a lot of interesting things, but some of the streets we've had a lot of problems with. After some of the digging and flushing, we didn't have as many problems as we typically do. Usually Front Street, we hear a lot of complaints about. We didn't hear really any. Second and third cliff were pretty good. We had a couple of little issues on Gilson Road.
How about Clap Road and Booth Hill?
I'd have to get up and look at it. You know, we had 109 of them. I plugged all those input points myself, and I don't remember a lot
Okay.
of Park Hill Road, but I could be wrong because I plugged them all. I picked the higher areas where we had the largest problems.
Okay.
Volume of calls has dropped significantly.
One, I think, before I go back to Steve, the big issue here is the traffic situation and the road access, the slope, and so on. And the fact at the last meeting, we were told that it's going to be, the truck that will carry these chemicals are the size of a Mayflower moving truck. Is that not correct?
Yeah, it doesn't look like that, but yeah,
It's big.
a large tanker truck, yes.
It's a big tanker truck.
Correct.
And one of the things that we can't prevent this from happening, but can this be set up in such a way that it is done in the middle of the day when children are in school? Can you have a certain time? You know, do it at 5 o'clock in the morning, some off-peak time.
So typically what that would fall under is the water department. The water department would line up their chemical deliveries, and if that's the case, that's something Sean or his chief operator would manage. You might be able to, you know, do another well that's in a better location, like maybe off 3A or off 123 first, and then, you know, do it midday and bring the truck in. That's always a possibility.
I think it has to be more than a possibility. I think it has to be a reality. I mean, people are not happy. They're not happy campers about all of this. And I fully can understand their angst, if you will. And we're trying to make this as palatable, even though it is not, as it can be.
Understand 100%. So that's a consideration we would definitely take into place in the water department work to achieve that.
You will achieve it. I know you will, Kevin.
We will try.
No, the try is not an operable word here. We're not working a try. It's a will. We will do this.
We typically do.
Okay.
I'm not saying there won't be an exception. We typically do. The other thing I just want to bring up for the board, this, you know, when we come up with this, it wasn't like we just thought it would be fun to put a new sand filter there.
Right.
You know, it's something the town needs. We recognize it, and we're trying to get additional water that we can put to use for our residents.
I agree. I mean, water is a finite resource, and we have to take very, very good care of it. And a green sand filter is going to obviously reap rewards down the road. It's just that people aren't thrilled, but it is the way it is. We need this well. I know you're unhappy about it, but unfortunately, we need it. And unfortunately, the access is what it is. So I'll turn it back to Steve. Do you have anything else you want to say?
Yeah, I've got a few questions, actually. You identified 4 separate chemicals, 2 of which are liquid that will be delivered. And so how do you manage, I'm assuming these are chemicals that in concentrated quantities we don't want to spill and end up in the water resource district. So how do you manage the spill containment of these?
So, yeah, okay.
How do you make sure they don't overfill tanks, that they're prepared to deal with a spill, all that stuff?
Yeah, so I can speak on the design. So we do have pretty much at the connection points outside, essentially where the hose would be hooked up to the fill line of the chemicals. There would be 2 concrete spill stations there to house those. But in terms of the stormwater design as well,
I'm sorry, where on the drawing are those?
If you don't mind, I can stand up.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So while he's going over this, two of the chemicals were already there, they were used when that well was in service.
Huh?
They would be shown at these two locations here. They're not called out on C-106, but I think they are on another sheet.
So these two rectangles are spill containment?
That's correct.
Well, the object here is not to spill it.
Well, and I think it's important to remember that when we come, this seems like a stranger or foreign kind of thing, but this is how all the wells are operated here. The chemicals are all specifically used for water treatment. They're not, something different. And the people that deliver the chemicals and the guys that go to help them, these locations are all in water resource areas by necessity, and there's specific protocol,
Hence the question. We're not permitting all of these locations, just this one, so.
No, I know, but it's not
So-
something different, and because it's new.
That's
it
why I
would
asked
be
the
better,
question. Okay,
you
I
know?
wanted to know what your plan was
Sure.
to manage this.
And then in terms of if it does get beyond this, say like a larger spill of some sort, we do have an inline check valve here to isolate the stormwater system to capture some of those spills so we don't get that into the infiltration basin and essentially into the groundwater as well.
We worry about it.
I'm
too.
sorry, an inline check valve for
It's
where?
not a check valve, it's you can close it, you can isolate.
It's a manual close
Yeah,
valve.
yeah.
So somebody has to run over there and close it if they have a
Correct.
spill.
Correct.
And
actually- and that's
you're
something-
managing that with the delivery people?
We always go along. There's Mass DEP forms that we have to follow whenever we
Okay.
get chemical deliveries, and a checklist that we have to go by.
Okay, and then,
It's all pretty standard.
Believe it or not, we do spill training with our guys.
no, I just want to know what the plan is for this location, okay? And then, are there any petroleum products on the site?
Generated natural gas or
Propane.
propane?
Yep.
No oil, no gasoline?
The oil will be
The
the oil in the
the
generator
that's
itself.
about
That's it. Yep.
The oil that's in the generator.
So the transformer's a dry transformer then?
That I don't know.
That I'd have to double check the electrical design for, to be honest with you.
I note that it has a pad with spill containment, so that doesn't sound like a dry transformer. At least on your drawing.
We have to check the
Yeah.
electrical engineer, but I don't think
Yep.
it would be, PCBs or something like that.
No, it wouldn't be that.
A new transformer.
Anything else stored on site? That's pretty much it?
That should be it.
Okay.
You all set for now?
Yep.
All right, I'll open it up to the public. Oh, excuse me.
I had one more.
All right, sorry.
I couldn't get it. I think we discussed this a little bit at the last meeting, but I just thought of it again and thought it would be good to go over again. It was, what is the sort of noise level that's generated when this facility is operating? And how is the noise going to be attenuated?
So we've actually conducted a short study at a very similar facility and pretty much put a decibel meter to that facility, and the typical noise generated from this site would be about 60 decibels. So pretty minimal.
At what
60
setback? At
where?
what distance? Or
What's that?
At what distance at the?
And that I believe that was
right
that was
there.
pretty close to the
Oh,
building.
okay.
That was like right next to the building.
Within a meter?
My car is about 65 on the highway, so it's.
A lot of conversation.
And what's the approximate setback to the nearest residence? Do you know? I know I could look it up. But it's-
It was shown.
Yeah, we do have that. Do you have that on the map there, Kevin?
I thought it was 129.
They won't hear anything in the building.
Should be
The noise
option
would be
2.
when the standby generators operate.
That was going to be my next question.
And
Is
then, again, so they test it, they need to run it, right, to make
Yeah.
sure it's,
Cycles,
keeps running.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
And
option
again,
1,
you can,
actually.
you can program that to happen, not at Sunday at 6 AM, but at, Tuesday at 2 o'clock or whatever, so it's a less intrusive time.
right.
All of our other generators are on a weekday, between 10 and 11:30 in the morning.
Okay. Yeah, I think that would be something.
To answer your question on the setback, it's actually going to be 129 feet from the property line to house number 110. And the setback from the house is about 250 feet.
Okay. So it's safe to say the noise level would be,
Should be pretty
very low.
Yep.
Okay.
You all set
That's
then?
all I had, yeah.
All right. Comments from the public?
Greg Morse, resident 167 Tack Factory. I think my concern as a resident of the street is trying to get the building as far back as possible so this is at least intrusive to the residents. You know, it's a single family in the neighborhood. The building isn't as back as far as it can be. Certainly there are wetlands back there. The commission typically allows projects ready to be 50-foot wetland buffer zone. The building could be moved back at least an additional 50 feet, which would provide that much more buffer to the closest house. We all realize, I think, that, yeah, the project has to happen. We all need better water supply. We need water supply. I don't think we're against the project. The driveway is of concern to us. Where the driveway accesses this with the proposed driveway, it's right on the curve. And it's a pretty significant curve. How it's currently laid out, this driveway is almost tangent to that curve line. As you come around that in a car, it's almost essentially going to be a Y intersection branch off of this driveway. More importantly, if you have one of these large trucks exiting the site, the truck driver driving a big rig truck, which I imagine is a standard truck, is going to come to a stop up there. It's extremely hard to start going up the hill and looking more than 90 degrees behind him at traffic coming from the end of the cul-de-sac. As neighbors, one of our neighbors here, Steve Del Grosso, he had put together a preliminary plan that I believe he shared with Kevin. We shared it with a couple of the selectmen. I think a couple of you may have seen this, which provides a driveway that's a little bit more of a perpendicular intersection, so it would prevent veering off the street onto it. It would promote a safer sight distance intersection. And it also follows closer to what the path is that we all know right now is the access down to the hill. If it could be relocated in any way, shape, or form closer to that existing path, I think that is something that everyone would be in favor of. We have concerns about the condition of Tack Factory Pond Road itself. A number of years ago, 10, 12 years ago, the town did install a secondary water line coming down the street from Old Oak and Bucket to this well location. It was a trench that was patched into the street. That trench has been paved over, but it's settled in certain areas. There are several catch basins that need to be readjusted, and having large truck traffic now on the street, having construction vehicles coming down, we're wondering if certainly that first portion of Tack Factory Pond Drive, if not the whole thing, could be repaved as part of the project. To remedy those problems and to provide additional capacity for the increased traffic we're going to be expecting. I had emailed over to the town planner some comments looking for information on lighting, information on guardrails, information on landscaping. I have yet to receive a response from anyone at the DPW or the planning office that was sent on May 22nd. I understand there's a peer review engineer. We haven't seen any comments. We weren't aware that there was a peer review engineer. I'd like to request a copy of his comments as well. That's all I have to say.
All right. The first item. Is there the ability to move this whole business back 50 feet? Yes or no?
Can I just start off with one comment on that?
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to say, we originally met with the residents on March 5th. We had a meeting, some had some concerns. We took their concerns, brought it forward, we gave their concerns to the planning board. We went through and came up with additional options and brought it to the residents on April 30th. We had another meeting with the residents and made modifications and moved things around to hopefully help everybody as much as possible. So I didn't want the impression that they were working in a vacuum.
Oh, I know that they're not. I'm well aware of that, Kevin.
So on that, I'll hand it over to Ty and Rob, and they can address that issue.
Well, frankly, we addressed all of those issues in our previous submittal in some detail, and we could go back through that again. You know, relative to the siting and the different locations, we did look at the driveway alternative. That was, we actually looked at everything. We looked at that the same as the ones that we came up with. We, I would say, recreated it in the AutoCAD drawing, computed the cut and fill volumes, looked at even, and our landscape architect said the same thing. They keep it straight the way it is, they'll be happier. We looked at even maybe adding, what the impact of adding a retaining wall would do to make it shorter and straighter, and the layout that is there was the least impactful in terms of fill volumes and cutting and width. The geometry of the entrance was also addressed, and it was, you know, specifically designed that way because it prevents two things. It allows the driveway to be more kind of crossing instead of going straight down, which requires more fill, and it also prevents the truck from having to use both sides of the road to navigate the turn. This way you can go down from it. And as far as the site distance, that's going to be, you know, grass, mowed grass at the driveway entrance. So I don't. I think it'll be pretty clear site distance. And it's a good point too. And I'm glad the gentleman said that. It's not going to come shooting out of there. It's they come up to the top of the hill, they stop. It's a slow. You know, it's not a. This is not a fast moving vehicle.
And could be well seen by other traffic.
I don't think it's a high traffic area now.
Well, just when school starts or school ends, which is the whole idea of having the big truck there in the middle of the day.
Right, yeah.
That's why. So.
Do you generally call for your deliveries?
We schedule our deliveries, yes.
Okay,
Yep.
so they don't just come automatically,
No.
you tell them when to come, so.
So I'm sorry, I appreciate you responding to all these comments, but I'm not sure I understood the evaluation of the location of the building. You considered moving it back, but you ruled it out because...
No, it is changed. It's not where we originally located it.
No, I mean, we're talking about as far back as you can go. So you considered that and ruled it out. I'm just trying to understand the rationale.
The whole site was pushed back.
We pushed back the site probably 40 feet from where it was initially located.
40 feet to the
40
north?
feet to the north,
Uh-huh.
correct, to minimize impacts.
Yeah.
Based on our original design and after a couple of meetings with the abutters. And essentially, from our understanding, if we were to push this building back closer into the wetlands buffer zones and closer to the 200-foot riverfront, it would put us into pretty much an alternatives analysis of locating the building. And if we were to go through the alternatives analysis, which pretty much drives us to locate the building to minimize wetlands impacts, this was probably the best approach at this point.
Well, it seems like the fill locations are further away from the wetlands, so, I mean, just from a perspective of potential spills and stuff.
The other,
seems like a compromise
consideration
that's not bad, right?
Changed the landscaping mitigation to better screen using larger, more appropriate. Mr. Bornstein, if I can ask you, since you commented on that, what do you think of the screening design? You know, if we have trees that are blocking the view, they block it at 5 feet, 10 feet, or 100 feet, it's not, you wouldn't see that it was moved back further if the, you know, that was the intent of the vegetation screening.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a fairly robust screening plan if kind of like the sight lines were evaluated and the specs for the tree size looks fairly generous. They're all 10 to 12 foot trees. I mean, obviously.
That was intent, you know, we've looked at every concern that got brought up, because we feel, we understand.
Right.
And trying to mitigate.
Yeah, I mean.
Sir, you had your hand up.
I didn't see the most current landscape plan here prior to my comment, but is there a lot of landscaping up at the entrance? We want this to look like a residential drive, not a runway to a commercial one.
If you don't mind, I can flip to the new landscaping plan.
Thank you.
So we do put, I believe, 10 to 12 foot various evergreen type trees along the driveway here, and screening trees.
We have names for, we're engineers, we don't know what trees are called. We actually have the names on there
We
that
do,
our
yeah.
landscape architect generated for us, because all we know are arborvitaes.
I thought your selection was much better than the initial selection, because these are far more deer tolerant and they're larger trees, and they provide 2 levels of screening, one right adjacent to the treatment plant and one a little bit coming down the slope. So I thought it was a much better landscape design, and I do thank you for, taking the comment seriously about the landscaping.
Well, and that's the difference between a landscape architect and a civil engineer.
Landscape architect.
Yeah, we had one just join our firm in the middle of this, and we asked him to relook at it and look at the screening and look at the site impact.
Mr. Morse.
To my point, I don't see any proposed landscaping at the entrance of this project.
Well, as he said, at the entrance, it would be all grassed, so that there would be no obstruction in terms of sight distance. What?
And then this is remaining, this material remains here, the vegetation that's there.
Correct.
Yeah, we're not gonna cut beyond,
Pushing further here. Like, this is a cliff from my driveway, and I can see right down to where the road's gonna be. So we can just put a few more.
We can talk about that offline after this is taken care of. If we have to do some extra plantings, I don't have a problem.
All right, sir.
Yes, Steve Grosso, 77 Tech Factory. Ty Bond's done a great job. They did try to address the issues that we presented to them. They did move the building back, albeit not as far as we would like. Whenever anybody's given a project to do, there's multiple ways to do it. Take our baseball field, artificial turf, real grass. They have a way of doing this. There's more than one way of this. We don't object to the project. We would just like to see the building deeper in the woods, and we would like to see some consideration for the windows. That's it. That's all we're looking for. Mike did tell me there was gonna take an extra 3,000 yards of fill to build the road, and similar to what I had suggested. I'm not saying mine's perfect. An extra 3,000 yards of fill is less than 1% of the value of the job. I don't think we should be looking at it. I'm not asking the town to waste money, believe it or not, but 0.5% to 1% increase in the value of this job to maybe help us deliver this project, I don't think that's too much. And then also, to Greg's point on the street, we have a couple of catch basins, people have orange cones around them because the basins are settled 5, 6, 7 inches. Quite honestly, I think DPW should get out there and raise them separate from this job, but it's an indication to compaction that went on in that previous project, that trench is in tough shape. And I think the construction vehicles coming in and out, they're probably gonna do more damage. They're really going to see the town consider, at least from Alewife out, pave the road.
Kevin?
So I can address both of the, I guess there's three questions. One, I will have the highway department, I'll put that on their list. If there's orange cones there, chances are they put them there.
Now, one of the names did too, yeah.
Okay.
Just so you know.
So, has that been reported to the highway department that there's some
I don't know.
done?
I don't know.
Okay.
It's, you know those cascade basins, the artificial waters that goes down the hill,
Yep.
so, it's in tough shape.
So,
It's right across from 33. But I think, Kevin, not to interrupt just for a moment, I think it's a symptom of how that trench was backfilled and over time it's just deteriorated.
okay. So, on that token, we'll definitely talk to the highway department.
All right, thank you.
We can definitely do that. The other two questions, paving the road, it's not on the list, the paving list, because there isn't a lot of traffic to be paved in the near future. If there was money left over on the project when the project was completed, and if that was allowed by the selectmen, I mean, I didn't have any problem paving the road, but I can't promise it, can't put in a decision beforehand until we know what's going on.
But if it's a rut, it should be leveled off.
If there is a rut or if there's a problem out there, sure, yeah.
All right.
We would fix it with the highway department.
Okay.
We'd go out there and fix any asphalt issue.
But long-term, there's long-term maintenance for the town as well. If it was included in the scope of this project, the last thing they did was take care of it.
Well, I think
You
he,
get the most bang for your buck.
Right.
You're gonna pave the road, access road anyway, right?
They're gonna pave the access road, but just remember, we put in, if that wasn't in what we requested at town meeting, I necessarily can't defer money from there, left over and pave a road.
All right.
So that's the only thing, I'd have to look at wording and everything else. As far as the extra 3,000 yards, after the first meeting, I told Mike and I met, and I said, I'm not worried as much about cost or anything to that effect. I wanted to go back as far as we can, and, do the best we can to design this so that we have one, minimum impact on the environment, and minimum impact to the residents. So there was no, I didn't say, Mike, you can only spend $11 on this. I said, it has to be done and come back with some new designs that we can look at and build this within the limits of what the requirements of what the rules and regulations are.
okay, thank you. Sir,
Yeah, on the,
please identify yourself.
Oh, sorry, Paul Stutzman, 110, Jack Beck, So, snow removal is what I wanted to ask about. Like, when I come out of my driveway, which is next to this, in the winter time, I can't see. So if this truck's coming out, but we gotta, like, remove the snow banks or?
The vehicle's quite a bit taller
Right.
than a car.
What we'd do is we'd typically continue with our snow removal plan, and we would also, just remove the snow from the road, so.
Let me see if I understand something. Already, a big truck is going down that road to that water plant, is that correct? And it's the truck that we're talking about that will be going once or twice a month? So it already goes down that road?
No,
Oh, no.
Not currently.
It stopped over the past, few years. It hasn't been a truck going down that road with chemical.
But there was before.
But there was before.
It was before.
But not that size. Was there one that size going down?
That's before my time.
All right, then that's, okay. All right, it is getting late. I know you have concerns. What is the board's pleasure?
Well, it sounds like there's still some open questions. There were some other questions that came up about guardrails. Has that been addressed in the drawing?
Yeah, they were addressed in the previous submission.
So they're on this
The
drawing?
memo that was prepared.
Okay, and the lighting?
What do they call that? It's the wood. It's the, yeah, the, yeah, there's a name for it.
It's not metal.
And better than the rest of them.
Oh, I know, those are horrible.
It's not the Corten steel stuff, right?
Correct.
So it sounds like there were a couple of additional things that came up as well about maybe modifying the landscaping a little bit.
I think it's already been, well, that's,
No,
as,
the landscape plan is completed, and Mr. Switchman asked if we could add a couple more to go up further. I said we could work that out with him
offline.
offline. It doesn't have, and I told him that
Well,
prior.
I'd want to put it in the conditions, right, so.
All right.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Well, Sean Collins, 80 Tack Patrick on Drive. I just wanted to ask the engineer, we've done this before, the existing road that there is there now, is that going to continue to be left alone?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
That path, yep.
That's the access to my yard for any large machinery, so we talked about going down the road that's going to be built, being able to swing around and come back up that whole path.
Right here?
I'm on 80 Tack Factory, so I'm right next to it.
He's talking about right here, Mike. No.
Right in the corner of the
Right
existing
here.
road.
This right here.
Oh, sorry.
So he's hoping that that's still gonna be available to him, and I think that
There's
no
no
guardrail.
activity
Yeah.
or anything. shown
Looks
there.
like the fence and the gate is after that road.
Correct.
So that's game.
For that reason.
Is the fence at the bottom of the hill, Mike, or is it the top? It is.
It looks like it's at the bottom. Am I looking
No,
at it?
no, it's at the top. It's at the top.
Isn't this it right here?
Yeah, that's the top.
I'm thinking at the bottom.
No, that's the top one.
Turn around.
I think the bottom of the drive, basically.
All right, so,
I'm sorry, just to clarify, the road's being left alone, is that what?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he still wants access.
We didn't want to block that.
yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so what they do in the design software, they have these things called turning movements, and it shows the tracks of the front tires and the back tires, all that thing, and that's how that's designed. So if you lay that on there, you can see it matches exactly what it needs to turn around. So yes, it's not backing up onto that.
What's the expectation of moving it back? If I move the building back, 50 feet? Just sight, just looking at the building and seeing the building?
Yet the screening should
Take care of that.
take care of that.
No, I'm trying to figure out what I gain by moving it back 50 feet or whatever it is.
I'm not sure that you do.
Well, that's why
I'm not sure you gain much, and then I'd be more worried
Risk.
about spills getting closer to the 200-foot line there. It feels like it's a it's not a great answer for anybody, but it's a compromise that
It's
sort of
almost-
addresses both of those issues, right?
Can I answer those questions? I mean, the simple answer to that is, when you drive there now, all you see is the gate and the dirt road. You don't even know what the wells out there. Now we're gonna have a building, at least in the initial design, it was more prominent, the road is more prominent. In a nutshell, we want this thing as conspicuous as possible.
Yeah, I hear you.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's really all it is.
Right.
Get it out of sight, so we can't see.
Well, I
I think it's just a balancing act, right? It's one is visual, one's sort of all of the other impacts that it might potentially cause, and I don't know. It just feels like if they've already moved it, the whole site 40 feet back, they've provided screening here, and maybe we need more screening down below. We're kind of at that sweet spot that nobody's happy, but maybe everybody can live with.
Yes, ma'am.
Terry Stutzman, 110 Tack Factory. I do have a concern with the road. Chairman Tavon mentioned that the angle of the road in front of it is a mowed lawn, and it's not a mowed lawn. If it is ever mowed, it's because he has a neighborhood mow it, so is the town committed to maintain that property, trimming back the trees, mowing the lawn, where it is the town law? It's never been maintained by the town.
Kevin,
Yes.
you will maintain it.
The water department typically maintains the wells, they keep them up to date, they're up there daily, they do cutting, they do tree trimming, whatever it takes to make sure it's in. As the well is more active, they take better care of it.
Okay, thank you. Up by the street.
Up by the street.
Yes, up by the street, Kevin.
We do weed whacking, we do grass cutting, we
know, plant flowers and.
I don't understand that.
Well, we will do some mowing.
I've never seen anyone, I've never.
I mow it, it's not a big deal, I'll mow it.
Well,
All right, we're getting a little carried away, and as I said, it's getting late. So are we prepared to move on this, people? We can satisfy some of the people some of the time, but not always. Steve?
I'd like, as long as we can condition things, I guess I'd like the answer to the question about whether there's any oil on site or not, particularly with its respect to the transformer. But we could condition that.
Okay.
You indicated you thought it was a dry transformer, so that
We'll
would be
check
fine.
that, like right away, because I
Yeah.
wanna make
Yeah,
sure
we can
that
get
it's
that.
dry transformer, that it wasn't picked, you know, that there's not a specific reason one way or the other.
I mean, do you want to continue this, or shall we?
Well, what would be the answer if, I mean, can you use it as a dry transformer, or does it have to be a oil cooled?
Would it not go through the planning board if it was a wet transformer, or?
I'm just saying,
asking why.
you've got alternatives here, so I'm asking the question. Why store oil on a site that's close to your water resource if you don't need to, right? So I'm asking the question.
So let's put that in as a condition, that it's a dry transformer. And unless they come back with us and say it has to be a wet transformer because it's running on 480,
That
And you come
wouldn't-
back
that
to
wouldn't
us.
matter.
come back to it.
All right.
480 wouldn't matter, so.
No, it's not
Yeah.
480, but, you know, if they had some other reason, I don't see it. Does that sound fair? You guys think that sounds fair?
sounds fair.
All right, we have a suggested motion.
Okay. I move to make the following findings of fact. One, the applicant submitted a site plan entitled Scituate, Massachusetts, well 17A water treatment plant. Site plan review package dated January 2019 with revisions through July 2019 by Ty and Bond, stamped by G.E. Christie and John N. McClellan, registered professional engineers. Two, town meeting voted for upgrades to well number 17A on April 14th, 2016. The engineering contract was awarded 1/31/2017. On April 8th, 2019, town meeting authorized the treasurer with approval of the Board of Selectmen to borrow $8 million for the purposes of engineering and construction of a green sand filter and SCADA, SCADA, for well number 17A. 3, the property currently has a gravel access road and well 17A is located on the property. The site is located in the Residence R1 zoning district, the Water Resource Protection District, and its Zone 2 subdistrict. 4, according to the elevations and site plan, the height of the water treatment plant will be 20 feet 3 inches to the eave. This is lower than 35 feet and meets the height requirements for a residential building and also meets the required front, side, and rear setbacks for the residence district. 5, the property off of Taft Factory Pond Drive has single-family residences to the south and east and is further surrounded by vacant forested land to the north, immediate east and west owned by the town of Scituate. The proposed water treatment building has been pushed north as far as possible away from neighboring homes to the south, minimizing impacts to wetland resource areas. A row of evergreens 10 to 12 feet in height will be located to the south of the water treatment plant outside the fence and on a portion of the southwest side of the access road. The board opines that adjoining premises will be protected against any detrimental or offensive uses of the site, and the site plan meets the standard of review of Scituate zoning bylaws, section 770.6, paragraph A. 6, the number of parking spaces for a municipal well water treatment plant is not specifically regulated by the table of minimum requirements, section 760.6 of the Scituate zoning bylaw, but is included in quote all other issues in this table subject to determination by the planning board. The 3 spaces shown in the plan include 1 handicap accessible space and 2 other spaces which include 1 employee space and 1 visitor space. The parking spaces will allow for DPW staff to access the building on a daily basis for water quality and equipment monitoring and for occasional visits by service technicians or other authorized visitors on an as-needed basis. Parking appears to be sufficient for the proposed use. Site traffic will consist of a daily check by DPW staff for monitoring water quality and equipment and occasional visits by service technicians or authorized visitors. Under current contracts, deliveries of 2 liquid and 2 powder chemicals occur each month. The 16-foot wide asphalt driveway with berm on the southwest side is designed around a WB-50 design vehicle, so that equipment maintenance, replacement, and servicing can occur along with equipment and material deliveries. A guardrail will be located along the northeast side of the road to account for the steep grade. The driveway is similar in width to other residential driveways in the area. The driveway entrance is designed for a vehicle to enter the site in a generally straight alignment, minimizing the curb opening. Pedestrians are not anticipated to be crossing in front of the driveway as the sidewalk is located on the other side of the road. Vehicle headlight glare is expected to be minimized as deliveries and DPW staffs are only anticipated during daylight hours, except for emergencies. The driveway layout provides access for emergency vehicles while minimizing unsafe conditions for oncoming eastbound traffic in the designer's opinion. The planning board opines that the site plan meets the standard of review of Scituate zoning bylaw section 770.6B and C for traffic safety, ease of access, pedestrian safety, minimizing glare, and access for services in emergency vehicles. 7, there are no sanitary facilities on site and thus no sewage disposal system as there are no full-time employees on site. Waste from the site consists of treatment of residuals, particulate iron and manganese, and will be pumped into the sewer. There is an existing hydrant on site by the well. The plans have also been reviewed by the DPW Water Division. The planning board opines that the site plan meets the standard of review of Scituate zoning bylaw sections 770.6D for adequacy of methods of waste disposal, adequacy of water supply, and firefighting facilities on the site. 8, the site plan and stormwater report were reviewed by the Conservation Commission's consulting engineer, Deborah W. Keller, P.E. of Merrill Engineers and Land Surveyors. The plans are modified in response to the comments. It is anticipated there will be no increase in rate or volume of runoff for the proposed site, and the water quality standards and water resource protection district requirements will be met. The site is in the Water Resource Protection District in Zone 2 to a public well. The stormwater system has been designed to improve water quality by reducing total suspended solids by at least 90%, treating 1 inch of runoff, and having a 3-foot separation from the bottom of the infiltration basin to the estimated seasonal high groundwater as required by the zoning bylaw. The majority of the stormwater from the new access drive and water treatment plant area will be directed to the low point in the access drive, then directed to the proposed infiltration basin with a sedimentation floor bait to remove solids. There will be an isolation valve that can be closed as a spill control measure. The applicant is willing to accept conditions to protect groundwater quality related to the storage of salt, chemical de-icing compounds, and petroleum products, and a prohibition on vehicle washing on the site. The site plan meets the standard of Scituate zoning bylaw section 770.6E and F for adequacy of stormwater management and control of toxic and hazardous materials in the Zone 2 subdistrict and Water Resource Protection District. Okay, yeah.
9, cut and fill has been minimized by limiting the embankment height along the access road and having the lowest possible finished floor elevation. Clearing has been minimized and erosion control blankets will be used on the 3-to-1 slopes or steeper for stabilization. An erosion and sedimentation control plan will be used. Soil will be reused on the site in the vegetative berm. The site plan meets the standards of Scituate zoning bylaw 770.6 G, H, and I. 10, as the parking area contains less than 10 spaces, shade trees are not necessary. Outdoor lighting is no higher than 16 feet above the ground and is directed to shed light to the northern building entrance and will be cast downward, minimizing glare and light spillover. No pedestrian or bicycle trips are anticipated. Barbed wire chain link fence is used for protection of the water supply elements. The site plan meets the standards of zoning, Scituate zoning bylaw section 770.6 I and J. The site plan entitled Scituate, Massachusetts Well 17A Water Treatment Plant Site Plan Review package dated January 2019 with revisions through July 2019 by Teagan Bond meets the requirements of the Town of Scituate zoning bylaw section 770.6 site plan review standards of review to a degree consistent with a reasonable use of the site for the purpose permitted by the regulations of the district in which the land is located. Okay, I'll entertain a second for findings of fact.
Second.
All in favor?
Discussion.
Discussion.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we should adjust, just to add a couple of comments in the findings of fact.
Yep.
Under the paragraph that begins with site traffic will consist of, that,
What number are you on?
6.
Okay,
6, yeah, sorry.
Second paragraph, page number 6.
okay.
Yeah. So the last sentence, I would suggest we add to the end, to be scheduled, in off-peak hours.
Wouldn't that be?
Wouldn't you add that for a condition?
That's in conditions. We don't need that in findings of fact. I put that in the conditions.
Okay,
Okay? Forget that.
all right. That's fine. So, part of it's saying what they are doing versus what conditions we're going to
Right,
include.
that's right.
So,
It's the conditions that are important, more important.
I would say that a finding of fact, and I'm assuming this is a fact, under 7 is that they will be pumped into the sewer during off-peak flow hours. I think that's what we've heard people say,
Yes.
so let's
And-
make that a fact.
On off-peak hours.
Off-peak flow hours.
Flow hours. Okay?
All the rest we can address as conditions.
I think just one other correction, the top of the next page. Vegetated, instead of berm, vegetated slope. The third line down on page 4. It's really a vegetated slope, not a vegetated berm.
On page
4.
4.
It's under number 9, cut and fill.
Oh, okay.
Vegetative slope.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything further? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
As amended, right?
As
Yeah.
amended.
Aye.
Aye. I move to approve the site plan for well 17A water treatment plant, subject to the following conditions. 1, the site plan entitled Scituate, Massachusetts, well 17A, water treatment plan, site plan review package dated January 2019, with revisions through 2019 by Teague and Bond for expansion of well 17A water treatment plan is approved, except that it may be modified if changes are necessary to meet the conditions below. 2, 6 reduced sets of 11 by 17 prints and PDFs shall be provided to the planning board prior to the pre-construction conference for distribution to town departments and for the files. 3, the building shall meet all pertinent requirements of the Massachusetts State Building Code. 4, materials and details of construction shall meet all pertinent requirements of the DPW, Board of Health, Fire Department, Conservation Commission, Building Department, and Commission on Disabilities. Where this site plan administrative review requires approval permitting or licensing from any local, state, or federal agency, such required approval, permitting, or licensing is deemed a condition of the Town of Scituate Planning Board's approval of this site plan. All necessary permits and approvals must be received prior to construction. 5, the number of parking spaces for a municipal well water treatment plant is not specifically regulated by the table of minimum section 760.6 of the Scituate zoning bylaw, but is included in all other uses in this table subject to determination by the planning board. The 3 spaces shown on the plans include 1 handicapped accessible space and 2 other spaces, including 1 for an employee and visitor. The parking spaces will allow for DPW staff to access the building on a daily basis for water quality and equipment monitoring, and for occasional visits by service technicians or other authorized visitors on an as-needed basis. 6, the grade of the access driveway shall not exceed 8%. 7, gasoline and chemical abrasives used for snow and ice removal shall not be stored on site. No road salt shall be used or stored on site. Construction. 8, a pre-construction conference will be required prior to the start of construction, including a representative of the DPW, the site contractor, and the town planner and conservation and natural resource officer. Prior to scheduling the pre-construction conference, a schedule of construction activities shall be given to the town planner along with the stormwater pollution plan, prevention plan, SWIP, and the NEPIDS permit. The construction general permit and SWIP shall be provided to the town planner for review and approval prior to construction. All work within the right-of-way, this is number 10, all work within the right-of-way of Tack Factory Pond Drive shall be coordinated with the DPW. The DPW shall be notified prior to the start of work within the row of right-of-way of Tack Factory Pond Drive. Other than as required by this work, there shall be no parking or idling of vehicles on Tack Factory Pond Drive during construction. 11, stormwater control measures shall be maintained according to long-term prevention plan and stormwater operation and maintenance plan submitted for the project and for the stormwater pollution prevention plan, SWIP. All clearing and earth-moving operations shall only occur while erosion and sedimentation control measures are in place. 12, a crushed stone construction entrance as detailed on the plans shall be required and installed prior to the start of work. Water and sediment cannot be discharged into the infiltration basin until the site is fully stabilized. 13, the town planner is to be notified when erosion control measures are in place, when construction begins, and when construction is completed. If deemed necessary by the town planner in consultation with the DPW engineering staff, temporary sedimentation basins, check dams, silt socks, and/or noise and dust control may be required in addition to the erosion control measures shown on the plan. All erosion control measures shall remain until the town planner and/or conservation agent determines that the danger of erosion or sedimentation no longer exists. 14, construction shall proceed according to the construction phasing plan. Construction work 15, construction work shall not begin prior to 7 a.m. weekdays and 8 a.m. on Saturday, and shall cease no later than 7 p.m. or sunset, whichever is earlier. No construction shall take place on Sunday or legal/federal holidays. After construction, 16, a set of as-built plans stamped by a registered surveyor and reviewed by the registered professional engineer who designed the system shall be submitted to the planning board within 30 days of completion of the work. This plan shall include the construction conditions of the stormwater management system, utilities, grading, building, site amenities, and driveways. The as-built plan must be submitted prior to obtaining a certificate of occupancy, and such plans must be found in compliance with the approved permit. All grading and landscaping must be completed prior to the as-built submittal. Is there a second for discussion?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, there needs to be an addition to number 7. No vehicle washing shall occur on site.
And no oil.
Right, so I don't know how,
Yeah, I would suggest number 7 is gasoline, oils, and chemical abrasives, right? Used for snow removal shall not be stored on site. I would also modify number 6 to add a second sentence that says maintenance of the access drive entryway area shall be maintained by the applicant or DPW or wherever to maintain site distances for the drive access. I would also suggest adding after number 7, another item that says chemical delivery scheduled shall be scheduled during whatever it is, midday weekdays. And such unloading of chemicals shall be done in the accompaniment of a town employee who's familiar with spill containment requirements and emergency response. What else? And then we should have a condition that addresses, the applicant will review the transformer, design and report back on whether it's a dry or oil-filled transformer.
So on something like that, would say, plans to use a dry transformer, if an oil one is required, the consulting engineer will have to do.
Okay. Anything else, Dave?
Well,
You're
other
not-
people may have
I know,
other
well,
ones, so.
Ben?
I'm trying to keep up with it all.
I'm trying to keep up. A dry transformer shall be used if a,
Dry transformer shall be used, if a wet transformer is required, the consulting engineer will support that.
Ben?
Did we want to formalize the agreement that the butter and the town will work out the additional screening if necessary?
I think
That
so,
go in
yeah.
there somewhere?
Yeah, I had that as well. I think the applicant will work out additional screening with the abutters and will report back on the plan to the town planner. Right?
Works for me.
on the slope, additional screening on the slope.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's-
on the roadway, access road slope, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is there any new signage being put up?
Good question.
Signage?
We don't do that for wells.
No,
We don't
sign-
advertise.
Yeah.
No, you don't want people
Don't
to know
want
where
to,
it is.
right.
It's a big secret.
Not a big secret, it's a safety issue.
It's a safety issue. That's why it's a big secret. Bill, do you have anything?
Let's see if we had anything else. Let me just look at my notes.
Ben?
I'm done on that.
Patty?
I think everything's covered.
Oh, we should also indicate the backup generator will be run
Oh,
during,
Off-peak hours.
well, what, midday, weekday?
probably do it midweekdays. Yeah.
That's kind of the right time? That's what you do with the others?
Midday or mid-morning?
Mid-morning. We don't want anybody woken from a nap.
What about the test, is there going to be a test pit here?
Yes, we anticipate a test pit to be completed pre-construction.
Okay, so we should probably put that in too, right? And then you'll provide those results to the planner to verify 3-foot separation, right?
Yes, sir.
Sean Collins, 80 Tack Factory, Conrad. Could I also ask that something of the condition you put in there, that old access road is not cut off by the, I can see the guardrail coming
I
down.
don't think we can do that.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, I said I'd work with you the best we could, but I can't put that in as a condition, you know.
And because this is a public thing versus a private, that's between the two of you. We can't put that in as a condition.
Well, I thought I heard you say you weren't going to block it, so what's the issue?
Are you going to block it?
We have no plans to block it. And
All right.
I already told him offline that you know, we would let him bring his boat back there and we wouldn't make an issue out of it. But I don't want to put in there to put us at odds with DEP if we're allowing
Right.
people in there and it's part of the conditions for the approval.
I'm not following that
I am.
argument.
What it means is, this gentleman has a boat that he wants to be able to put in his backyard at the
Yeah.
end of the season. And so he has worked out a deal with Kevin that Kevin will try really hard to make sure that he has that access. Rather,
I'm sorry, it's not because of the boat, it's because it's the only way to get any large type machinery into my backyard. So if a septic system goes, whatever, a huge tree comes down, that's how we get down there. Get a key from the water department, we have somebody open it, or they're there that day, and I arrange it, or whatever the case may be. And they bring, that's how they get the large machinery down. Because there's no other way I'm elevating
Mhm.
the house, the driveway, and then the slope.
So is there a reason we can't sort of acknowledge that here?
Just in an emergency, no reasonable access will be denied.
okay, in an emergency, no reasonable access will be
The only thing I
denied.
can see is like the guardrail just going a little too far and cutting off that road. I mean, it's,
Steve, you will email all of this to the planner.
I'm shorthanding this.
I'm trying to get most of it.
All right.
I can.
So
send
what
it
we
to
want to
the
do is
board.
avoid cutting off access to that path,
to the existing,
Yeah.
that would be the old access road.
to the existing path, right?
Okay. Anything else?
Am I going with notes here? Let's see.
Well, I depend upon you to,
Well, I got them in some semblance.
Okay.
So, I mean, I will put them in and then send them back to
yes,
the board for your verification as well as the
applicant.
applicant.
What about the only other thing we didn't address was the existing trench or catch basins or whatever?
That's,
Did we say we're going to fix those?
That's really not part of the project.
that's not part of the project.
So left over.
It isn't really, Steve.
Anything can be part of the project, right? So-
Well, if you are gonna fix them, they'll be out there
So
tomorrow.
are you going to fix them?
I've already received an email about it, so
Okay, that's pretty quick.
I can't say he'll be out there tomorrow, but I know it'll be added to his list and he'll
Okay.
get out there.
All right.
I think that was everything. I don't think we need to do anything with noise, right? You'd asked about it, but you're saying the limit is 60 dBA at the building, right? So it should be 60 dBA at the property line then, right? Maybe much less than that, but if we set it 60 dBA at the property line, it should be fine, right?
Yes, sir.
I just had a question on that. Is it 60 decibels when the generator's running or 60 decibels all the time?
Just when it's running.
No, that's not the generator at all.
For the
Right.
well, is
This is equipment operating.
This is
That was
equipment
operating
operating in
equipment, correct.
the building, right?
that's right.
How long do you run?
The generator is only going to run 15 minutes a week or
Okay,
something, right?
So it's the amount
It's
of
just the operation.
sound that a car makes on the highway.
Inside your car.
Yeah.
You
60
know.
dBA is very low.
Okay.
But I'm happy to say it's 60 dBA at the property line.
Yeah.
Because if it's 60 dBA at the building, it's going to be much less at the property line.
So, but there is gonna be a constant noise, it's just for the quiet.
Correct.
So it doesn't shut off at certain time of day or anything? Just keeps running.
I don't think you'd know outside whether equipment is on or not.
There might be times during the winter when we shut it down for a while.
That's fine.
All right.
Can I see that?
Okay, we have a second, a vote as amended. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming, and I do understand your concerns, and we've tried. Thank you.
Whatever it takes.
Is there anything else? I'll entertain Bill's motion.
Second?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.